we were talking about the, we were referring to, sorry, over here. We were referring to all Yidden get from Aharon HaKohen, the koyach to be able to be mamshich something in a way that is powerful to be able to overcome all levels of obstacles and hakbolas and so on. And we were talking about this idea of bitachon. There's two levels of bitachon, to the level of arich, which has to do with seder ishtalshlus, and then there's higher than that. It's beyond the level of seder ishtalshlus, etc. So let's cut out the noise over there in the background over here. Okay, let's. So we, like I said, we left off on the last page, page 164. That's what he explains over there in the Maimer. The fact that it's possible to be menias vikuvim, that there could be things that could be obstacles and things that prevent a person from what he's supposed to do. That's what it explains in the Maimer over there in the Bitchu Hashem Adiyad, that over there it's possible to be a level of obstacles. But from the perspective of Soiviv Kolam, which is totally beyond Seder Ishtalshlus, over there, the Hainu B'chinas Shem, B'chinas Yudke Sheb'Shem Havai, the level of the Shem Yudke, which represents Chochma Bina, we said is something that's removed from the world. Vavke is the level like the Shisha Midos. It has to do with the world, it connects with the world. It's like the level of a Malach Lam. But Chachma Bina, it's similar to what we say, Alpayim Shana Kadma Torah La'olam, the idea of Alpayim Shana, that's the level of Alef Chachma, Alef Bina, it's beyond the world. So therefore, when you're dealing with Yud Kev Shem Avayim, there could be the trust that one will overcome all obstacles and all things that stand in a person's way. That's what it says. Out of the confines, I will call out to Yudke. The Be'ez HaMeitzer Valachas during a state of confinement and pressure. Adam will be Yisurim Gedolim when a person is in great suffering, till the power to be able to take it is like completely weakened. Then he calls out to the level of Yudke that's beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. Because he is going with a powerful type of trust and a powerful type of bitachon and confidence and faith in the Eibush. He is going in a straight path, and he does not become affected by and excited and any way deterred by those that are scoffing, by those that are making fun. Like it says, do not become embarrassed and before those that are scoffing and those that are making fun. He's also not affected by a molek that is the same numerical equivalent as suffix doubt, that causes a person to doubt what is good and what is right and so on. Not only doesn't he become affected by any of these obstacles, but he breaks through all these obstacles. Rather, even more so, that he transforms them to good. The Torah and the power of Torah, was given to make peace in the world. He refines the sparks that's in everything. So the Rebbe is talking about the bitachon over here, both in the spiritual and in the physical. He's talking about both bitachon when a person has physical things that he needs to overcome, and also the bitachon about overcoming spiritual obstacles and spiritual things that are standing in his way. And not only does the bitachon help him through it, but he also manages to go to the utmost other extreme. And he takes those things and he transfers them and he transforms them and he changes them. So, והנה פרח מטה אהרן גוימר. That's the, and that had to do with the pasuk that we said, Al tiftachu b'nedivim ki b'vka Hashem tzurei lamed. So we explained, why does he say the name Yudke? We had a question, why does he use the word and name Yudke over there? Al tiftachu b'nedivim ki b'ka Hashem. And initially we said ki b'ka Hashem tzurei lamed, that b'ka Hashem is actually a level to not, it's a negative proof. But here we're talking about al tifkum medivim ki b'ka Hashem tzurei lamed. We said that it's actually a positive proof, that the proof that when we have the level of Yudke, when we have the level of higher than Seder Ishtalshlus, so then that could break through any barriers and any types of limitations whatsoever. So now he's going to go back to the original topic of this mimer. The original topic of this mimer is that the staff of Aharon blossomed after the whole dispute with Korach, and we said that blossoming of almonds was to tell us, just like the almond is something that ripens very quickly, same thing over here, it is something that ripens and comes down very fast. The brachas of Aharon, the brachas kohenim, and so on, comes down very fast. So, v'hine porach mata Aharon, this is what it means, and this is what it says. And the staff of Aharon blossomed after the dispute of Korach and his congregation, and his group and his community, comes the idea of the speed of the Hamshacha through Aharon. Meaning, what you have is, like we said before, that when the person has these obstacles, not only do these obstacles not stand in his way, but rather the obstacles is something that he transforms and they assist him, and they are like these sparks that he elevates, etc. Like, for example, the river, when the person has things that stand in his way in the river, when he overcomes them, then he breaks it through in so much more of a powerful way. So then the Hamshacha comes down very quickly, like we said before, that when you dam up a river, so then the energy of the water is so much more powerful. Very speedily, does his words rush, because it's such a powerful Hamshacha, therefore nothing stands in his way. So that's the same idea over here that we're talking about concerning the Hamshacha that comes from Birchas Aharon. That comes, we said earlier in the Maimon, comes from a level of Rav Chesed, therefore it breaks through and makes sure to come down all the way. That we asked before, why does he say Minametza Karasi Yudke? He should have said Minametza, from the oppression, from the difficulty I'm calling out, to Shem Havaya, because Shem Havaya, that's the level of Midas Harachamim. So why does he specifically say Yudke? Because only from the constraints and the confines does he reach a level of calling out to Yudke. Through that, respond to me in broadness, Yudke, meaning that Yudke, that's a level of Chachma Bina, it's a level of Soibev, the level is beyond Seder Ishtalshlus. When you're dealing with Hamshacha that comes beyond Seder Ishtalshlus, so then the power that comes down is so powerful that it overcomes all obstacles. Any questions? Says Chasar Asiyum, the mimer, the conclusion of mimer is missing. Questions? Okay. New mimer. I sent you the download for it. From mimer Shabbos Parshas Korach, Tavshin Chav Beis. Vayikumo Lefnei Moshe Goyim Kriya Moyed, and they rose before Moshe, those that were appointedly called. In other words, Anshe Shem, the heads, the different heads that were challenging Moshe and Aaron. So there's going to be a little bit, a piece of Kabbalah, but that the Rebbe is going to quote here from the Zohar, but then he's going to explain. Isa the Zohar, it's brought down to Zohar that, sorry, B'shaita, the B'shaita, the Moyed, during the time of Yom Tov, the Yom Tov, and he called Inun Kisrin, all of these crowns, Eloi, the supernal crowns, Minin, Me'asa, the Ikri Kodesh are invited and called down from a place that's called holy. And afterwards, the Zohar continues, that the kingdom down below is like the kingdom of above. The simple meaning is the kingdom of this world reflects the kingdom of Lamaila. But soon we're going to explain how in the spiritual worlds there's a lower level of kingship, and that reflects the higher level of kingship, the higher level in the spiritual world. Just like the supernal levels of crowns are invited and drawn down from a place called holiness, the supernal levels of crowns is the general 10 spheres of the name of the Eibshter, that's the numerical equivalent of 52, they are invited and they are drawn down from the supernal level of holiness. In other words, it draws down from the level of Ma into Ban. Ban is that level of Kodesh, that level of holiness, and from that level of holiness, from that level of Ma, we draw down into Ban. So too, it's in the Malchus of the land, meaning the sphere of Malchus. That the level of Malchus is invited and called to all of its might, or all its like its hosts and its armies and its powers, and all of these hosts of Malchus, these levels of Malchus, are called to be crowned in this lower level of holiness, the holiness that comes down to Malchus. What is Chayolin? What are these hosts? What are these armies? Chayolin Zewan Nivroim Klolin the Machnim Chol v'Gavriel. These hosts and these armies are the general creations of the camp of Michal and the camp of Gavriel. Mamshcha Zohar Acharkach, and the Zohar afterwards continues, just like there are the armies and hosts that exist above, so too, there are the appointed people over the nation. They're down here in our world. There are people that are appointed over the nation, similar to down here. It's similar to these type of hosts and these type of appointments that Malchus has over all of these armies, over all these troops of the Malach. Messiah, the Zohar concludes as follows. Why are the leaders of people called Kriyei Moyed? They say, Kriyei Moyed, Shekol HaMshachas Him Bizman HaMoyed. All the Hamshachas come at the times of Yom Tov. We'll speak about that in a moment. The Alma, through those that are appointed over the nation. Hanasham is Kloli, is the general. Nasham is Sheman Nasiyim, Mamunim Al-Am, that they are the leaders and they are appointed over the nation. Since Korach and his congregation and his people opposed Moshe, they disputed and argued with Moshe. Instead of saying it Kriyei Moed with a Yud between the Resh and the Aleph, it's missing a Yud. So let's see what he's talking about over here as he goes on. an explanation. This the Tzemach Tzedek explains in his commentaries and explanations on the Zohar. He has a sefer. The Tzemach Tzedek has a sefer called Biurei HaZohar. There's also Biurei HaZohar, the Middle Rebbe. Sheklolos HaMaimer Shebezohar Bola Vayir Madua Ksiv Kruei Moed Chaser Yud. Why does it say Kriei Moed with a missing the letter Yud? What does this mean, the words, when you translate it literally? Kruei Moed or Kriei Moed means that in the Yom Tov, in the Moed, people are involved, or things are invited. Like we, I'm invited and called. That then, in all the levels, there's a level of a drawing down and an invitation. All the general spheres are invited and drawn down from the supernal holiness. What takes place on Yom Tov? It's the drawing down from Chachma Bina to Zeiram. Though the drawing down from Chachma to Bina to Zah is always to be found. Why is it always to be found? Because there's the chain order of descent. Because the worlds, to be able to exist, the only ways it can exist is if you have the spheres, and the spheres draw down one after the other. So Chachma comes to Bina, Bina comes to the Midas, Midas come down to Malchus. So that is a basic thing, that there has to be this Hamshach. So he says, even more so when we do avoida. So for sure we are ensuring that should come down from Chachma Bina to Zah and Malchus. So why do we say that Moyed, at the time of a Yom Tov, that's the time when we have this Hamshach? He says, it's not similar to that which comes down on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Then there's an additional light and revelation that comes down from Keser to Chachma Bina. By day Avol and through Chachma Bina comes down to Ze'er Ampin. And afterwards it comes down from the Midas, it comes down into Malchus. That's what it means in the Zohar. It says it comes down from the place that's called Kodesh. What is the place that's called Kodesh? What's the place that's called holiness? In Akadusho, the idea of holiness is in Kesser. This is analogous to a king that's locked up in his palace. He's in his private chambers, and only his name is called over the country. This is the country belonging to King so-and-so. But it's not that the king is in every corner, in every village in the country. It's manshal but at a very auspicious time. Then he reveals himself to his servants with his entire being, with his entire essence. When is that? That's the time of the victory in war. Maybe as Eisrotzen, the victory brings about that it becomes an auspicious time. And but Upoil says Galus, and it affects the revelation. That is a Yuval Mile and similar to this be understood above. Though there's always something that draws down from Chachma Bina to Zeir Ampin, and from Zeir Ampin comes to Malchus. So that's a constant, that's an ongoing event. So Yamshach Chitzonis, that's an external Yamshach. But on Shabbos, that he reaches after a service of the 6 days of the week in the working with refining the sparks. That refining the sparks, that's similar to the idea of conquest and being victorious in war. Just like we said in the Mush, now when does the king reveal himself in his entire being, in his entire essence to his servants? That comes when he's victorious in the war. The same thing, you have this victory when the king comes victorious in such a type of way that the sparks that were previously in the possession of Klippa, the king is now victorious and has now conquered, and those sparks have been returned to Kedusha. Yom Tov is similar to this on Yom Tov. They have that type of revelation of Hashem's very essence. In his boil, this affects an additional revelation of light that comes from the level of Keser, like we said before. Any questions? But let's try to keep it on point. I want to try to finish the mimer today. Any questions? Okay, second paragraph in the second page of the download, page Chaf Al. Hine hamshocha shema keser shalamayla mishtalshus. Shenimshach l'zol malchus, the hamshocha from the keser. That's beyond Seder Ishtalshus, that comes down all the way to Zeir Ampin, into the spheres of Atzilus and into Malchus. Bo'aidei avo kanal. How does it come down into the Midas? It comes through the agency of Abba, Ve'ema, Chochma, Bina, like we said before. So now he says a very interesting thing. Each one contributes something else. Similar to what we have, the Alter Rebbe and Tanya brings us down from Mesechtes Nida. There is something that the father contributes in the making of the child, and there's something that the mother contributes in the making of the child. The flesh, the blood versus the bone and the sinews, etc., etc. The same thing spiritually. There's the level of Chachma Bina, who are called father and mother, and their children are Zeir Ampin and Malchus, the Midas. So there is what the Chachma Bina bring down into Seder Ishtalshus. There's what there's what Chachma affects in Seder Ishtalshus, and there's what Bina affects in Seder Ishtalshus. Because of Chachma, the father, the level of Bittul arrives. As we know, Chachma is Koyach Ma, it's a power of what? It's a level of Bittul. From the level of Ima, mother, Bina, comes the expansion and joy. Because what does Bina do? First of all, Bina is expansive. Bina spreads out, takes the Nekuda of Chachma and develops it and spreads it out. And also we know, because of that development and because of that expansiveness, it brings to a state of joy, as it says, Eim Abanim Smecha, the mother of the children rejoices. That Bina is called the mother of the children. It's idea of joy. And they're interconnected. The expansiveness is connected with the idea of joy. The idea of joy, it's understood. When there's an additional light and joy comes about from it. We need to understand, how does bittul fit in over here? Why is there a need for bittul together with this joy? So he's going to explain that bittul guides and makes sure that the expansiveness should be in such a type of way where it should not go off the rails. Similar to what's explained concerning that Hashem did not lead them through the land of Plishtim. So Plishtim is idea also the Rabbeim speak about from the word Mavoy HaMefulosh, a street that is open from both ends. That's the idea of Eretz Plishtim. Even though it's an opening from both ends. It goes through and through, but it's an opening of holiness. And still we have to forewarn, we have to be careful. There should not come about from it the idea of plishtim of the other side. In other words, from being very open and very expansive, opening and being expansive in Kedusha is a good thing. But sometimes that opening, that expansiveness, and sometimes that joy can cause a person to fall into being too open, even into matters of Kedusha, of Klippim. Moikim binyanenu, so too in our topic concerning Binam, that from the perspective of Bina itself, that causes joy. It's still insufficient. We have to take care that there should be the level of bittul of chachma. Bittul of chachma assures and ensures that we shouldn't go off track. We shouldn't have too much joy that we fall into things that are negative, or too much expansive that we fall into things that are negative. This idea is brought down in Chassidus, that sometimes from our great expansiveness of love during davening, we can, after davening, have a love that is not the way it's supposed to be. Though this is two opposites, the idea of bittul And the idea of joy, bittul, the person is constricted and constrained. Joy, it's about it being expansive. How do these two work together? That is the power of the general souls, the Rabbeim, the Nesiim, the leaders of the generation. Memunim al Amma, those that are appointed upon the nation. They join together both lines, both bittul and simcha together. Therefore, also the Hamshacha comes about through their armies, through their hosts, these general Nivroim in the spiritual realms. Therefore, down here below also, the Hamshacha that needs to be guarded, that should be able to come together, the bittul and simcha together, has to come about through the general neshamas, through the neshamas of the leaders. Therefore, Korach and his congregation, they dispute and they argue with Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader of the generation. They're missing a letter, Yud. Yud shows on the level of bittul, the way it's called down, it's drawn down. By the members of Korach's congregation, they could not have that Hamshacha that comes from the Neshamas Klolius because they severed their connection with the Neshamas Klolius. They argued against the Neshamas Klolius, against Moshe Rabbeinu. Concerning our idea, who the content of the above is, the general Neshamas of the leaders of the Eden, they affect the Hamshacha that comes in Yom Tov. That means the Hamshacha that's beyond the Seder Ishtalshlos Shazel. This is similar to what it's explained in Tanya. Concerning where it says that initially Hashem wanted to create the world with the midah of severity and judgment. Meaning Hashem initially wanted to create the world in a way of a Hamshacha of Seder Ishtalshlos, the ordered, the limited Hamshacha. We saw the world does not continue existing. We joined with it the midah of his mercy. It's a revelation of godliness through signs and wonders that come about through tzaddikim. This is also the Yom Tov of upcoming of the 12th of Tammuz. That through the Rebbe, the leader of the generation, comes down the revelation of the Yom Tov of Yud Beis Tammuz. There has to be the state of bittul and joy together. Like we said before, since it's a joining of two opposites, by the leaders of the generation, the leaders of the nation, there could be both things together, and they can ensure that it should be the proper mix, etc. As opposed to if a person chas v'sholom disconnects, and this is where it's left off in the copy of the mind. Any questions?